Hello and welcome to Horticulture Geek. I am Ray and I'm glad you're joining me today on this video. As you can probably tell by the title, we're going to be working on pruning a hydrangea bush here in the garden. And I'm going to preface this video today by letting you know that this is not the original intro to the video. This happens sometimes when you're doing these things. I had gone out the other day and shot this whole video, and I got to the computer and started editing things, and I just really did not like the intro. I don't think I did it justice, so I'm getting to do a redo right here. So in a minute when I jump back to the original parts of the video, you'll see a difference, and you'll notice that. So I just wanted to preface that and let you know. Now, for the purposes of this video, here's what we're going to be doing. Here in the garden, when we bought this house, it was pretty much a blank slate in the backyard. If you've watched any of our garden tours, you know that I have it pretty filled up now. There's still a lot to do. A garden is never done. A gardener always sees problems, and I'm no exception. So there's still lots of things I want to do and try. But even though it was a blank slate, I did inherit a few things in the garden. And one of the things that I inherited was a Hydrangea Macrophylla. So it is what most people, when you think of a hydrangea, if you don't know about hydrangea types or varieties, it's the big leaf hydrangea that does the big round flowers. So that's a Hydrangea Macrophylla. I inherited one of those, and it is planted, as you're going to see, in a bad location. So I'm stuck with it where it is, and I've let it go for up until this point. So we've been in this home and garden for going on a little over 6 years now. So everything you see in the garden tours is built in the past 6 years. And so this hydrangea, I've pruned it back once, and it just grew back with more vigor. So I needed to do something with this hydrangea today. So let me explain a little bit about the Hydrangea Macrophylla, because anybody that's watching this video who knows about hydrangeas, just their heart just stopped. And here's why. It's because you're typically not supposed to prune a Hydrangea Macrophylla. I understand, I know, I get it. Trust me, I understand. Please don't comment below and tell me I'm crazy for pruning this hydrangea. The reality for me, and it may be reality for many of you out there who have inherited plants or mistakenly put plants in the wrong place, it's not working. Something has to be done. And so my options are, I can either try to prune this hydrangea and maintain it, or I can dig it up and pretty much put it in the compost pile. And I'm not ready to give up on it yet, because it is a beautiful hydrangea, and it gives me beautiful blue hydrangea flowers. They're absolutely gorgeous. I want to try to maintain that to a certain degree. So here's the problem with the Hydrangea Macrophylla. Hydrangea Macrophyllas set their blooms the previous season on the old growth of the plant. So all of the hydrangea branches or canes that you're fixing to see in this video, those are all from last year, right? So we're in the middle of winter right now. Those are all from last year. Every one of those canes is already formed flower buds, and they're ready to go for this year. Hydrangea Macrophyllas do not set flower buds on new growth. So this hydrangea that's out here will put out brand new branches, brand new canes this year. They always do. But none of those new canes will set buds this year. They will grow the canes out this year, and then as the cane grows, it will set flower buds on that cane that will then have to overwinter in the coming winter, and that will bloom for me next year. That's how a Hydrangea Macrophylla works. Ideally, in this spot, I would have someone would have planted a Hydrangea paniculata, a panicle hydrangea. Those are wonderful varieties. So if you are working with a space, if you're thinking about planting a hydrangea and you have a smaller space, you don't have the room to let a hydrangea get 6 feet tall and 5-6 feet wide, you probably want to go with a Hydrangea paniculata because those bloom on new wood. So you can actually prune those down to the ground every year in the fall, and in the following spring it'll flush out, put out all these new branches, and it will bloom for you. I don't have the luxury of having Hydrangea paniculata with this particular plant. I do have some Hydrangea paniculatas that I have planted in a few other spots of the garden, which you'll get to see in upcoming garden tours. But for right now, it is what it is. So how am I going to prune this hydrangea? So I don't want to lose it, but it's way too big and out of place for its current spot. Well, there is a type of pruning called a standard. So that's what I'm going to attempt today. So what that means is I'm going to try to prune this bush back to a tree form. And in the rule of gardening, you know, it's a general rule, because this is how Mother Nature works, you want to work in odd numbers. So if you've ever done any sort of planting, landscaping projects, or container planting, you may have been told, heard this before, plant in 3s or 5s. Because Mother Nature doesn't go out and put things in perfect little rows in perfect even numbers, okay? So to make things look natural, it's better to put things in odd numbers. And that is exactly true when you are pruning bushes like this. So I want to ultimately, out of the 100+ branches or canes in this hydrangea, I want to get down to 3 or 5, okay? And I'll go ahead and tell you, I ultimately end up with 5, and you'll see that in a minute, just because it looks more natural. So this is not an easy process, and this will require a lot of maintenance on my part. So if you're considering doing this, taking an existing, established plant and pruning it into a standard form, it will require a lot of work. Now you can go to your garden centers and you can buy a standard hydrangea. Growers make these. You can go and buy them. And in that situation, they're a lot easier to maintain because the plant has always grown that way and it's not going to fight against its own nature. I'm going to fight against the plant's own nature. It has been growing in this spot for I don't know how long, at least 20 years. And it is very happy to be a very large overgrown bush, and it's going to want to go back to that. So I know right off the bat that this is going to require a lot of maintenance on my part, especially in the spring when it starts to flush out new growth. I'm going to have to be over there constantly pruning back all those new canes that try to come up. And the other thing that I'm going to have to do to obviously take it from a bush form to a tree form is I'm going to have to limb up the canopy of this hydrangea. So a cane, naturally, if you can imagine my arm is a cane, it's naturally going to stick a branch off here and stick a branch off here and stick a branch off here, and then at the top it's going to go all over the place, right? So to make this a tree form, I'm going to have to come in and cut these branches off of the main shoot and just leave the ones across the top. So that's how I'm going to have to prune this thing. And again, it's not an ideal situation, but I think it's going to work for what I have and the situation I'm facing. Because again, I don't want to lose the hydrangea. I like it. I just need it to behave itself in the spot where it was planted. So for this point, I think I have given a good enough intro that you'll understand what's going on, and we'll jump right into the work of the hydrangea pruning. All right, so I've got my pruners and I've got my loppers, and I'm just gonna get in here and start cutting stuff out of this bush. So one tip I have is, if you notice I'm stepping back occasionally and looking, you want to keep a check on visually which branches you think you want to leave, and make sure you're not pruning those out, because you don't want to just whack the whole thing back without watching what you're doing, because then you'll just be losing your plant. So if you'll watch, I occasionally will step back and look at what's going on so I can get a feel of what I'm going to be left with as I go. All right, I've got it pruned down enough now to where I really have to start making some critical decisions on which branches to keep and how this thing's gonna look when it's shaped up. So I have to kind of proceed with caution. And then I'll also get in there with my little hand pruners and start doing some more fine cuts to try to prune that up as well. All right, so from this angle, hopefully you can see a little bit better, but I have left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches. I decided to go with 5, and I have kept branches that splay out nicely. So splaying out, you know, just means to open up nicely. I don't want a straight up tree. I want it to splay out. And you probably also noticed I went in and did some selective pruning up these branches, just like I talked about. So now I've got to come in and I've got to clean the crown of this plant up. So all of this has to be pruned down and debulked and cleaned up. So I'm gonna put the camera back up and work on that. But I think you can already tell this is hopefully gonna look pretty good. But time will tell for real. So let's see what happens when I keep pruning. All right, so it has been a few days. You're probably noticing a change in clothing. I lost light. It got too dark on me the other night when I started working on this hydrangea bush. It got too dark to film, and then the next day we got ice and snow. So it took me a while, but I'm back today. And I've went ahead and worked on this plant. So I've got the crown of the plant all cleaned up, and I'm ready to show you how it looks. So let me flip the camera around and we will zoom in on it, and I'll show you kind of the finished product of this hydrangea. Okay, so here is the finished product for the hydrangea. So it still has some good height. I still have lots of good branching. I'm gonna leave all this branching on the hydrangea. And I still have lots of new growth emerging. Okay, so I've left lots of places for it to grow and emerge. And I'm down here, you can really see right here, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches that I've left. And I've got that crown cleaned up as best as I can get it. There is tons of shoots coming out of this crown. There's even some new ones that I'm noticing today that were not there the other day. This plant is already trying to push new growth. So this, like I said at the very beginning of this video, this will be a labor of love. I'm going to have to do a lot of maintenance and pruning on this to keep everything from pushing up out of this crown. You can see there's some green there. So that's all going to try to push up and create new canes or new branches for this plant. So I'm just going to have to do a lot of work to keep that under control so that I can try to maintain this standard form. And you can really, I'll zoom in here, you can see I've knocked off all the little branches that were coming down too low, because again, I want this to be a standard form. I want it to look sort of like a tree. So I've pruned off everything below kind of this level right here. And in the spring, I'll back up, you can see. So kind of like right that level right there, I've pruned everything lower off. Now in the spring, depending on how it looks and how it starts to grow and fill up, I may bring that up a little more. Just time will tell, okay? But for now, that's what it is. I've got to remulch this whole bed, so I'll bring mulch in, and there are hostas planted here, and there's a hosta over here. And since I have gotten this cleaned up, you really couldn't see either one of these hostas because the hydrangea had gotten so large. So now those hostas will have the opportunity to come up and be seen, and I've opened up planting space all the way around this thing where I can come in and do some more planting. All right, so I'm kind of excited about that. So this will just be a continuing work in progress, but I think for the purposes of this video, we are good to go for today. All right, so here I am standing next to the hydrangea, and I know it's kind of hard to see against the brick of the home because it's just brown sticks at this point right now. But in the spring, when this flushes out and pushes all its new growth, it really is a very nice bright pop of green. And once the blue hydrangea balls start coming out, it really is a gorgeous plant, which is why, again, I didn't want to lose this plant altogether. So that's why I've chosen to try this method. And you know, that's really the thing with gardening, guys. Give it a try. You know, you really have nothing to lose. It's just give it a shot. So for me, in my situation, this hydrangea, again, like I said at the beginning of this video, had gotten so large, my options really were dig it up and lose it, or try this. Because its crown and its root system is so large, and there are pipes in the ground in this bed. There's a water line that runs through here, and there is a sprinkler line that runs through here, and I believe there's an electric line that runs through here. So the chances of me getting this plant out of the ground intact while also not messing up any of the systems that are in the soil were slim to none. So if I had to dig this out, it's pretty much a goner. It's going in the compost pile. So if you ever have a situation like this where there's something in your garden that you like, but it's just not in the right spot, maybe you planted it, you didn't realize how big it was going to get, or like me, you inherited it from a previous owner, try to work with it. What have you got to lose, right? So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Maybe I inspired you to get out and try something in your yard or garden. And we've reached the time in that video where, again, give us a thumbs up if you liked it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you hit that bell right down there, that'll let you know every time I post a new video. And I also would like to encourage you to join us on our Facebook page by the same name of Horticulture Geek. Until next time, from my garden to yours, have a good day.